I couldn't tell you, numerous amount of hours, hundreds of hours in here over the years. Each time I come in here, I'd pick a different gully or a different hill, and there's still a lot I probably haven't seen. Well, originally it started off as alluvial, working the creek bed, about early 1860s. And then they got onto reef gold a lot later. That wasn't until the very late 1870s. Like most of the mines, the manpower was taken away with the First World War, and the war went on longer than expected. So by the time they come back, people had moved on. The last three families in here were Swetnams, Wallaces and Cardinellis, but by 1920 that was the end of any inhabitants in here. Nice. This timber has been placed here recently. They'll be doing essays probably. Taking samples and whatnot. They're always taking up leases all the time, but whether they actually do anything with them is another thing. But sometimes they lock it up just to keep other mining companies out, I think. When I first came in here as a kid, there used to be the remains of an old hut just there, which was Cardinelli's. They left by about 1920, same as Swetnams and the Wallaces. Jack Swetnam was a mate of Dad's, but they used to live a lot on pigeons. There's a lot of pigeons in here, and fish. About where that building is now, is where the Swetnam's home was. It's about a mile to Stirling. I had to walk to school, which I don't think Jack did much school. From what he said, he spent most of his time down the creek fishing, unbeknownst to his mother. When we brought him out here last time, he had a very bad leg and was on a walking stick, but he was determined. It was the last thing he did. He wanted to catch a blackfish out of his favourite little water hole down there, which he did. Still see old Jack sitting on the rock there with his fishing rod in the water. He died in 1979 at the age of 76. He died a fortnight after we brought him in the last time. There was a store here that, served the miners, just supplies and, basic, I suppose, picks and shovels. And up above Stirling there was what they call a bridle track, which was a horse or on foot, an old track where they used to cut across to Enso to play football. I remember a story. It was a New Year's Eve dance at Stirling at the old hall, and they used to alternate, and it was Enso's turn to come over for the dance at Stirling. And they come over because they get some pretty horrific storms in here at times. Anyway, there was a big storm that night, and the creek or the stream swelled up, and they couldn't get back across, and they were stuck here for 3 nights. And apparently they danced and drank for 3 nights and had a great old time. And apparently there was a lot of babies born about 9 months later. So they must have had a good night. or a good few nights. Yep, righto. Jack Swetnam's mother, Lil, was the postmistress at Stirling. And the other Swetnams I mentioned that lived down here on the point, Jim and Rosa. Rosa's family was Stewarts. And Stewarts had the hotel in here, the Miners' Retreat. Every time you've been digging for bottles, hear the thump of the stampers echoing through the bush. Bit of music coming out of the old pub, and that was the cellar. Close the door behind you. Why it's called Victoria Gully is because of this mine here is Mines, which was called the Victoria. Cam shaft there, the coupling goes on with that other end of that one that goes over there, another shaft there, another one there. That is interesting. Yeah. If you have a look, that's one big pile. That's a big Mullykeeper stone that's come out of a mine, one of the many mines here. Part of the hands. One interesting part of this boiler, she's obviously, the rivets are let go at some stage, that's only a lizard, and someone's put a patch on it. And it's been cold riveted, you could tell by the way they're peened over compared to the hot riveted one. And that was probably done out here, or it might have been in another mine prior, but that would have been a big job in those days, you know. And of course they didn't have welders. So everything was riveted. There's a mine right behind me and the breeze is coming out of the mine. Beautiful. I've sat here and drank a few beers. Now this only goes in to where that bit of a fall is. You can see part of the reef there, they've been following the reef. Which had gold bearing. And then it goes straight up, it's a shaft. Further up the hill, before the top of the shaft, there is another tunnel that goes in. And it crosses the shaft, and then the tunnel continues on right through to the other side of the hill. And to get across the other side, I put some logs across there years ago and crawled across. And I remember looking down at this as I was hanging on to the log. It was a bit dangerous, but anyway, and I had my son with me. We got in a fair way in, and there was parts where it was timbered up, where the ground was unstable. And I looked at it and went, oh, yeah, we'll keep going a bit more. And I said to Liam, my son, I said, whatever you do, don't sneeze, cough, make any sudden movements. I said, this ground's not real good. And we got up a bit further and there'd been a cave in, and I said to him, "Oh, just stop here." And he said something, and then I said, "Shush." And I could hear something dribbling. Next minute, there's a little bit of, fine stuff dribbling. And I said, "Right, we're out of here." Next minute, it got bigger. There was rocks like that, and then bigger and bigger. I said, "Let's get out of here." And as we were going out, there was a great crash in behind us. She fell in. So. I'd heard about a cemetery being in here, and I looked for years and years, and I'd been given a few bum steers, but I eventually found it, and it was in a pretty poor state, and I just thought someone needed to do something about it, which I did. This wasn't an actual gazetted cemetery, but there's thought to be about 30 odd people here. So. This was the only marked grave. There is other depressions and small patches of stone and that here and there. A little blackwood tree was growing up in it. After a lot of research after I'd done it, I actually found out who it was. Her name was Ida Bridson. I think she was 3 or 4 year old. And Bridson's come into Stirling from Deptford. Deptford's out another mining town in between Bruthen and Bullimore, I suppose you'd say. So, and it'll be good to see it come back in again. I think coming in here as a child and listening to old Jack and Nugget's stories, and just I've always had a bit of a love of gold and history, and especially our local history. And I just love the area. I love the stream. I love it in here. I got the bug. And I've still got it.